Welcome to the Shoot-Till podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Martin Depict. I'm a photographer and videographer based in Los Angeles. And if you do know me and you've been following along on this YouTube journey that I've been taking since the beginning of the year, or that I picked back up at the beginning of the year, you know that I didn't post a vlog last week. And that was really tough for me because I was really proud of myself and the consistency that I had been sticking to with one vlog every other week and then a podcast in between that. And what happened last week was just I had to get some work done and catch up on some stuff. And then also taxes needed to be filed. So the stress that came with all that stuff, I just didn't want showing on camera. And if you guys knew me, I'm not the type of person that can hide emotions very easily. So it's probably best that I didn't upload anything. What I did go ahead and upload though, because I would have considered it a personal failure if I didn't upload anything, was I uploaded a tutorial. And it was... Originally, it was like a 40-minute long edit. And then when I finished it, I think I edited it down to like 25 minutes or something like that. And I watched it through, and it just felt like I was jumping all over the place. And if you've watched the podcast, I'm sure you've had that idea before, is that like I'm too all over the place. I take a long time to make a point. And I think that if I didn't edit out a lot of shit, it would just be me talking in circles until I finally made the point that I was trying to make. So taking that into consideration, I really thought of who that video was for, who I was targeting, who it was intended to help. And I edited it down to like 6 or 7 minutes. So instead of describing or saying like what a LUT was or what log is, the people that are searching up, you know, fastest way or easiest way to color grade log footage in Premiere Pro, those people probably already know what log footage is. They probably already know what LUTs are. So they're just trying to find like an easy description that could help them. And I think that's what my video was. And I actually like am really proud of how I sort of like hit that nail on the head. And I'm really proud that I still got a video up last week. Initially, I did want to do that tutorial and make it part of a bigger vlog that I was working on, but taking into consideration that sometimes, you know, putting everything into one video might not be the best way to do this. There's a part of me that's like, oh, vlogs are just like, you know, everyday things, and like, you know, I can do and say or talk about anything, and it would just be like BTS of my life, basically. And that's partially true. I think that like it's a great sort of catch-all, but at the same time, there are certain subjects like that tutorial that I think could live on their own. So I'm not saying that in the future, if I ever do tutorials, that they won't be included in vlogs, but I do think that there's a world where I also take that tutorial and also upload it separately just for like SEO purposes and for people to be able to find it easier and not have to scrub through a 30-minute video and to find the information that they want. So it's just something that I thought of, and it might be best practice for me to do moving forward. And also moving forward, I think like things that I've done over the last 2 weeks, you know, sort of taking note from what we did in the last podcast, I am doing a much better job at sort of using my tools. And by that, I mean like, for instance, my second camera today is not a little action camera. It's an actual Canon. So I'm using a Canon R5 Mark II and then the Canon R1 as my B cam. And the reason for that was that I wanted to really take advantage and use my tools. It's also great practice for when I'm actually shooting and I need to run and gun and need to sort of like set things up on the go and be quick with it. You know, going through like menu systems and figuring out like what settings these things need to be in really quickly, maneuvering things around. It's sort of good practice for me to just take so that way I'm not fumbling around when I'm actually shooting. I think that I'm really good at it in general, but it's good to just work out that muscle and make sure that I'm sort of staying on my toes when it comes to this stuff. I don't mind using the smaller cameras, like using like my Ray-Bans or the Insta360s or the DJI Osmo. I don't mind using those cameras. They're great little cameras that I can just like pick up and not really think about settings and all this stuff. But at the same time, I know that I can be getting a better image out of out of even those little cameras, because if I just took the time to, shoot in manual or throw an ND filter on some of these cameras, I would get better footage. So I guess moving forward, I'm working on a vlog now. It's probably going to be the longest vlog that I've done up to this point. I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of stuff that I'm cramming in there, like DIYs, some how-tos, what's in my bag sort of, but for a specific reason. I kind of don't want to say what it's for because I want it to be a surprise, but I'm excited about it because I'm really having fun with the process of doing this stuff. And I think that this next vlog is sort of like my big test on, could I do it in public? So I guess we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Hopefully it's not like a dumpster fire. And even if it is a dumpster fire, I think like it's still worth posting, So yeah, one thing that I wanted to start this podcast off with this time was I wanted to bring up some of my analytics because it's now been just over 3 months that I started doing this again. And I was looking at some of my analytics through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. So specifically pertaining to my podcasts. And I was looking at the amount of streams that I've gotten over the past 3 months. So the first 3 months of the year, I got 526 plays on my SoundCloud. Doesn't sound like a lot. But reframing that into thinking that like if I have 526 people come to my house in the last 3 months, I think people would think that I was probably doing something illegal in this house. So this is like a success for me, especially for someone that has only done 21 episodes of all this. 21 episodes of the Shoe Tail podcast, only 6 of them are recent. This is a huge success for me. And then seeing the analytics, like 563 plays in the US, 24 plays in Germany, 15 plays in India, 9 plays in the UK, 8 plays in España, 5 plays in Ireland, 1 play in Argentina, 1 in Lithuania. My biggest city is Los Angeles with 280 plays or 280 streams. So like, I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud that like, the city that I'm from is my biggest market. But I also have like cities like Atlanta and Shelton and Ashburn, Brockton, Apple Valley, these cities that I've never even heard of, but I know that they're in the States because they have the flag next to it. But it's like, this is like nothing to scoff at for me. And I think that when we think of success, right? Like, it is such a moving goalpost, right? If I'm so hard on myself when it comes to measuring my own success, because whether I was in a corporate environment or I was, doing freelance stuff, I am very goal oriented. So if I set a goal for myself and it takes me a really long time to hit that goal, I will start getting down on myself. But if I set that goal and I hit it really quickly, but then it takes me twice as long to hit the next goal, I would still get down on myself. So like checking in on this stuff every once in a while and making sure that like, hey, like I'm making small steps towards something big. And like, it is 526 plays, in the last 3 months, but it can be more than that in the next 3 months, or it can probably stay the same. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I know that I'm doing this with a lot of care and a lot of love for doing it. I pay attention to other people's content. I know that the quality of stuff that I'm doing, like my video quality, my sound, I'm putting a lot of effort into this, as well as I don't have a co-host. I'm not talking to anyone else. I'm not having to banter or bounce ideas off of someone or joke with someone. This is literally just me in my office, just sort of talking shit. And I'm doing my best. So knowing that I'm doing my best and I have this much support already, I'm very, very thankful. So thank you guys for watching. If you've watched the last 6 episodes, if you've watched all 21 episodes of the Shoe Tail podcast, thank you guys so much. One thing that I was surprised of is that Mexico is not on this list yet. So I'm sort of surprised because it is one of my biggest audiences on Instagram, but I also have not been posting or promoting this on Instagram, which I should probably do. But I want to get this to a point to where it can be ready for those eyes, because if you've noticed, I haven't got one dislike in the videos that I posted since I started this year. But if I have a feeling that if I promoted it on Instagram, it's just going to attract some people that might not be as supportive, which I can't be afraid of, right? I can't be afraid of like the trolls, like that kind of stuff is going to happen. But right now I'm having a lot of fun. Just like the few comments that I get just are very supportive, and, responding to all of them. I'm having a lot of fun doing that. So thank you guys again. I appreciate it. Like and comment, keep subscribing. It means the world, for real. But moving on from that, I wanted to talk about something a little dark, but then also some ways that it could be getting better. It's all having to do with the same thing, but the first thing that I wanted to bring up was something that hits pretty close to me because it happens to me all the time. So I'm sure you guys have seen this on TikTok or have seen the stories on the news. But basically, Tatiana went to the US Open of Soccer in 2024, took a bunch of really dope pictures, and Lauren Blake ended up taking those same pictures and just replaced her face with AI and tried to post them and pass them off as her own. Now, this kind of stuff happens to me all the time, where like the pictures that I take get posted online. The difference is that most of the people or most of the profiles that take my photos are not real people. These are just AI influencers that really just take my photo and replace the face with a AI face. And this seems like sort of like a victimless crime, right? But what Lauren did to Tatiana, that was not victimless. That is like straight up copyright infringement. That's stealing someone else's work. And it's crazy because there's older photographers that I know that would be so quick to sue for some shit like that. But I think, just the amount of attention that this got on social media, like it gave a lot of attention to Tatiana. Lauren had to delete her account. I'm not sure if it's back up now, but she did come out and apologize. She blamed the photo on the agency that she's working with for AIing that photo and, not knowing that it wasn't a real photo beforehand. Also what makes it a little difficult is that Lauren is white and Tatiana's black, and the fact that the skin tone wasn't really changed, it was just sort of like made to look as like a tan white girl. It's just it's sort of insane. And like what's crazy about this whole situation is that this sort of attention economy that we're all a part of now, right? Like whether you want to admit that you're a part of it or not, if you have any of these apps on your phone, you are sort of feeding it. You're feeding the algorithm, or you're also allowing it to learn from you in some way, shape, or form. We are all part of this motor that they need to keep running and functioning. And one of the currencies in this sort of attention economy is how authentic you can come across. And it's just really crazy to me that like some of this stuff is still happening. And like the fact that like AI slop is only growing more and more. More of this content is being posted online. Another instance of something similar, but I think more touchy, is there's a influencer creator named Laurel Benz who is on TikTok. And his videos are very like family friendly. He makes a lot of videos with his wife and they just had a kid. But people have been making AI content featuring his kid. And I think at first maybe it was a little bit funny to him. And then now it's just sort of like gotten to the point to where it's a little bit creepy. And yeah, I think like you can only take so much of that stuff, right? Like it's not natural to be taking other people's likeness or image and creating stuff with it. I've said before that we're sort of like in this wild west of like AI and having it be a little bit lawless right now. I think the silver lining is starting to show a little bit. One big win moving in that sort of direction was that Meta and YouTube lost the lawsuit that sort of claims that their platforms can be addictive and specifically towards children. So they're appealing it in a bunch of different states, in California as well. But like the losses that have already happened, it's accounted for like millions of dollars in losses already. And we'll see if the appeals actually go through and they hold up in court. But the scary part is that we're getting to see like these cracks, these little cracks in these platforms. YouTube specifically, I worked with a toy company and I did YouTube content for them for 2 years, over 2 years. So I know how stringent and strict YouTube can be with when it comes to promoting content to kids. So just based on my experience with that, I think YouTube has a much better case to appeal. But when it comes to Meta, it's a little bit more harder to judge, especially now that they're trying to compete with TikTok, because the way that they're sort of feeding people content is scary, right? Like we don't know what information that they're taking from other apps or off our phone to be able to target us with such specific content. In these lawsuits, which I'm sure there'll be more of, as well as I've heard that there's whole school districts that are coming after them now after these losses. I think this is all gonna cause these platforms to just have like more guardrails, or it can be as simple as sort of like a warning label, just like how cigarettes have, right? And just have like, you know, may cause addiction, and have it just be like a checkbox that you check before you log in. We don't necessarily know yet, right? So I guess we'll sort of find out to see like what they're actually doing. I think like besides that being like a small crack, a bigger sort of win was the fact that Sora is no longer a thing. I think the big reason why it went extinct is because some of these people were making these short films using likenesses of people like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Will Smith, and making these movies, these short movies basically, with, you know, without paying anything, without having to ask anyone's permission. And so I think it scares the studios that a lot of their IP, their stories, their characters can be ripped off by just regular people that know how to use an AI program or an AI platform. I think the biggest thing or the biggest question is that now there's a hunger for it. Now that there's people out there that got to use Sora and really liked using it, and now there's going to be someone else that makes a platform available to people that they'll be able to make that kind of content on. Just more AI slop that includes, you know, licensed characters, and it'll be something that people can get away with. And will some people get in trouble? Probably. But again, we're in the Wild West. Like there's no law set about this yet. The one big silver lining here is that Ro Khanna, congressman and representing the Silicon Valley, he is helping bring this. It's not necessarily like a bill, but it's introducing what he's calling the Creator Bill of Rights, or the Content Creator Bill of Rights. The Content Creator Bill of Rights is basically a proposed set of protections for people who make money online, like YouTubers, streamers, influencers, educators, podcasters, and freelancers who depend on platforms for income. It was introduced in Congress by Representative Ro Khanna in January 2026 as a resolution, not a binding law. That means it does not force companies to do anything yet. It's more like a public statement of what lawmakers think creators should be protected from and what future laws might aim to fix. So I think one of the biggest things here is that they're proposing things to protect creators specifically from AI. And they want to make sure that all creators that are making money from these platforms have access to healthcare and stuff like that. Here's the big thing is that, like, I think when it comes to this creator economy that there's a lot of people part of, there's a lot of people that are sort of like at the bottom end of this, right? If we're looking at this as a pyramid, there's only like a very small percentage of creators that reach that sort of tip of the pyramid where they're making like a huge amount of money, where they're able to afford a house, quit their job, pay all their bills with the content that they're making. I think that's obviously a goal of a lot of people, a part of the community, but it takes a long time to get there. And some people, it might take longer than others. Some people might be really good at it and get there really quickly. But with these sort of like proposed protections, it is great to sort of be moving into that direction and be thinking of like ways to help this sort of community, because as of right now, everyone, right, on these platforms, they're just looked at as users. We're not necessarily looked at as like creators or people that are driving some of this content to keep people on the platform. Do they have millions of people uploading to the platforms every day? Yes, obviously, but not everyone gets to see the same amount of success. And I think that one of the biggest things about this proposal is that a lot of these users or creators, their income can just vanish. And it can easily go from, they can be making, 5-6 figures and then be dropped to like maybe a couple $100 very quickly, just based off some of the changes that some of these companies make. And they have no say about that. They also have no say of like how they can take their audience with them to other platforms or protecting them from losing their accounts. There's not a lot of framework for this, right? Like I think Meta tried to introduce Meta Verified, right? Where you paid $14.99 a month to get that blue check and to verify that it's you, and you get access to like special support. Well, now there's different tiers now where you can pay $500 a month on Meta and be like a featured account. And whenever you post, not everyone will see it, but like you'll get promoted in a way to where like more people will see it than the usual percentage of people that would see it if you weren't paying for that. So the issues with AI, the issues with creators not being taken serious and only looked at as users of a platform as opposed to the engine that drives a lot of it. I think like the silver lining is the fact that there's people fighting for this kind of stuff. And I'll say this again, if you are someone that doesn't create anything and you just view it and you sort of like enjoy just doom scrolling at night, as everyone does, like I've literally laid in bed and doom scrolled for like 3 or 4 hours without even realizing, thinking that it was only like 15 or 30 minutes. If you think that you're not sort of like feeding into these platforms or like giving them information to train whatever thing that they have going on, right? Because like I'm so skeptical of like anyone that calls themselves an expert when it comes to the algorithm, because the whole point of an algorithm is the fact that it's always changing. It could be one thing one day and something completely different the next week. We don't know how fast it's learning. We don't know how fast it's moving. The trends now are in and out so quickly. Like people are on to the next thing. I think the one thing that is a little bit consistent is the fact that like we are the ones feeding it. In fact, we are the product, and they're selling us as the product to other companies. They're getting all our data, what we're clicking on, what we're watching, what our favorite likes and things that we don't like, all that information, all that stuff builds a profile of who we are. And they then get to take that information and sell it to the highest bidder. We feed into this machine. And we need to sort of like make sure that we are protected. I do think that there is hope here. And I think that the Content Creator Bill of Rights that Ro Khanna is proposing and is working with other creators to push this through, I think this kind of proposal is something that evolves over time. I think that like as things change, as new things come up that creators have to worry about, it's worth noting and understanding that there are people out there fighting for these types of rights. And that should give people hope, because it does give me hope. The fact that there is people out there that sort of are taking the smaller creators into account and not just the big ones. And then just to put on my tinfoil hat here at the end, I think when like a lot of these laws get, put on a voting ballot in the future, it might not be like in the next, election cycle, or maybe even the next 2 election cycles. But when these protections eventually get onto a ballot and we have to vote on them, pay attention of the people who are not supporting them. Because I do have a feeling that there's going to be big creators out there that they're going to be used as like pawns to lobby against them. Just how everything is. Like, there's going to be people that are bigger creators that don't want the smaller creators to have more than they already do. I wanted to end on a hopeful note, but then I had to just put on my tinfoil hat at the end. It's probably not the best. But anyway, thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate, again, all of you again. And I'll see you next week for that vlog that I promise will go up on Monday. So hold me to that. But until then, keep shooting. Peace.